Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. So in this episode I am going to be getting our lithium-ion batteries ready for winter, and I'm going to do that by installing a heat mat to them. I'm also going to cover a few other things of how I built it, how much it cost me to build it, and if it's even worth building your own battery nowadays. My first job is to actually get the battery out of here. I put my battery right behind the driver's seat, and it is snug. This is very snug. So it doesn't help that we upgraded our inverter to a 3000 watt. I did have a 1000 watt in here before, but because we got an induction hob, I decided to bring it up to 3000 watt. But then we got rid of our induction hob because it's so juicy. But I never swapped this back to the 1000 watt inverter. Purely because I knew that I had my tools with me which require charging the batteries, and we have quite a few other things that are on 240 volt, so I thought, let's be safe, let's just keep it in there. But since we've been on the road for about 4 months, we really don't need it. So if we do head back down south, one of these are in my container and I will be swapping it back over. But I do have to remove this to get the battery out. Last time I did this, I was on my parents' driveway and I just took the driver's seat out and I had lots of room. I can't really do that here, so this is going to be tricky. So this is the setup at the moment. What I'm going to be doing is put in some Perspex over the battery to stop any hair, dust, or even rainwater, because that is a problem that we did have, and we had a leak and it messed up this BMS, which I'm also going to check over today as well, just to make sure nothing else has grown on it. I know that sounds weird, but if you want to see what happened there, check out the card in the corner. What else am I going to be doing? Changing these cables as well. Some of them are way too long and some of them are actually the wrong colour for what they need to be, so I will be changing those over as well, and just generally giving it a good tidy up. There's a few other cables that I've added in at a later date, which with this out and this out, I can really tidy them all up. So that's all out. It actually wasn't too bad. And here is the battery bank. So before I put the battery in, before I just run these little straps around, just so when I had to come pull it out in the future, I had a way of doing it. Because this is heavy. This is 8 cells in here, so 400 amp hour, and yeah, that ain't light. And to get it in and out of here is it's tricky. Right, hopefully that's given us enough light. And there's the solar. I think I'm going to turn it off. There we go. Cool, all done. That is putting that pole for this table to the test. If you're new to the channel, I have a Siberian Husky, okay? That's why there's a lot of hair. Cool, that is wobbly. I'm going to go ahead and start taking the battery apart, and while I do that, I'll explain exactly what we've got here. So for starters, there are 2 battery banks in here. One of these battery banks is 2 years old now. This is one that I first started with. For this journey and for this adventure that we are on, I wanted to build another one. So in total, we have 400 amp hour of lithium-ion cells. On top here, we have got 2 200 amp JBD BMSs. Right, little tip. Take a photo of everything. Because even though I built this battery, to say that I know exactly where everything goes and why it goes there would be lying to you. These are complicated, but if you like you know, building your own stuff, you like learning, you find everything fascinating like I do, and you love a challenge, then these are really fun, and you can learn a lot. Okay, so this set of batteries here, this is the first set of batteries that I ever had, and these are the second ones. And you can probably tell they're slightly different. These have screws that you wind in. These have studs that are actually welded onto the terminals, and you just have to put a nut on top. So it's kind of handy that I can tell which batteries are which. And obviously the bus bars are different as well. But this is what I need to sort out. This cable is way too long, doesn't need to be that long. This cable over here, this is for the heat pad, which is actually already in here. It's just not wired up. But I'm going to take this all apart anyway, check it all over, and yeah, do a bit more cable management. So I'm just going to stop taking the battery apart at the moment and basically answer some questions which I think some people might be saying to themselves right now. And one of the ones is, well, why don't you just put insulation around your batteries rather than putting a heater in? You obviously saw where our batteries are. They're in the front cab, and obviously there's no insulation in there. In the home part, in here, there obviously is insulation, there's heaters and everything like that. So if you have a lithium-ion battery and it's in your home area, then you won't need a heater, you won't need insulation. Your lithium-ion batteries are going to be absolutely fine. The reason why you want to be careful with lithium-ion batteries in the cold is charging them. You can't really charge lithium-ion batteries in cold temperatures without doing damage to your battery cells. Now this goes for any lithium-ion battery that's on the market. It's not just ones that people build. Everything that's in this battery is in a standard lithium-ion battery that you could buy off the shelf, which just has a sticker on it and a brand that has put it together and given you a warranty. Including the BMSs, including these cells, are exactly the same. So our battery is obviously in the front, and there's no insulation. We do have like thermal curtains and stuff like that. It does get really cold in there, and that's one of the reasons why I'm putting a heater. Why I'm not putting insulation around it is because in the first battery build that I had, again, it was in the front, it was in a plastic box, and I did put insulation around it, but we still had problems with it getting too cold in there and it killing the batteries. Basically, it would just deplete your battery and show you that you've got nothing left in it. So another reason I am not going to put any insulation around these battery cells is because they like to be compressed. So you can see that I've got tape around them, and that's just basically holding them all together. But this box around here is really tight. Lithium-ion cells, sometimes they can swell. So when you do buy these, if you put them together and there's no sort of bulging in between them, you've got some healthy cells. If there's some bulging, then they're probably not really good. But these are really good, and yeah, I built this box really tight. So all of these walls, everything is glued together, and then this front panel goes on there. And as you can see with these screw holes, it just sandwiches it all together. And if you do that, you get basically the most out of all of your cycles that these cells give you. I think it's like 16,000 cycles. So yeah, this keeps it nice and healthy, and that's why I've done that. With these BMSs, these JBD BMSs, they basically have this terminal here which is for a heat pad. And what will happen is your BMS has obviously got a nice big brain in there, and one of the features in it is temperature sensors. So underneath on each BMS you have 2 temperature sensors, which will sit on the battery, and if you can, try and sort of get them like halfway down the battery to give you a real accurate reading. And once it goes below a certain temperature, it will basically cut off any charging that is going to your battery, whether that is from the mains, from a DC to DC, or from solar. It will stop every single bit of charge that comes into these batteries, and it will trigger this heat terminal. And the heat pad that's underneath here has a cable that goes to this terminal and will basically open a switch, will allow power to come down to your heater, and then your heater will switch on, get up to a certain temperature, heat the batteries up, and then cut it off. And at that point, your BMS is going to pick up on this new temperature that's going on in your batteries, and will stop power going to the heat terminal because your batteries are back to a nice safe temperature, and it will allow charging going back to your batteries. So as I was saying, a way of checking if these cells are nice and healthy is to see if they're swollen. And if I look through here, I cannot see any daylight coming through these gaps. Now you might be wondering what this is. So from your BMS, you have a little terminal which this plugs into. And what this does is this goes to each individual cell on the positive terminal. And this is what keeps your battery basically nice and charged equally, and will balance each cell. So I will show you this in the app, but I can look on the app and I can see how much volts are in each cell, and if any of them are like going way out of balance. So if one's charging way more than the other, then I know that I've probably got a dodgy cell in there. But luckily all of our cells have been really good. Right, I'll try and explain this as best as I can, but obviously things are in here and I can't really take them out now. But this is a 12 volt heat pad. Some people put these on like the oil pans of their car or their water tanks to stop them from freezing. And then just underneath here is a little tiny sensor, and that sensor came with the BMSs that we have. And what that sensor does is it acts as like a switch. At the moment it's probably open, allowing no current to pass through it. Once it gets to a certain temperature, it will close, which then will allow current to pass through to this heat pad. Now I believe it's 60 Celsius at what point this will trigger. And what that would do is it will trigger the heat pad to turn on, get up to that temperature. Once it gets to that temperature, it will then stop and cut it off. And that obviously stops this heat pad from absolutely melting your batteries, because this heat pad will get up to like boiling point of water. So that's a good little feature to have. Now another great thing to do is to take the self-adhesive off of this and stick it to the bottom of this plate, and this bit of metal, and that will basically spread the heat through this metal plate, and then that will then transfer to your batteries. So right down here, this is our little temperature sensor, and it's basically recessed into this MDF, so obviously it's not sitting proud. This is the heat pad, this will sit over it. Again, this is rebaited so it's nice and flush with the MDF, and then the metal plate will then sit on top of it. This cable here is going to go to the negative terminal on the BMS, which is for the heat, for the heater, and this cable here is the positive, and we just need to put an inline fuse into it, and then that will go to basically one of the positive terminals on the battery, so it constantly has a positive feed to it. So as I said, I'm going to be tidying up my cables, and if this is going to a negative terminal, I want this to be a black cable really, and if this is going to a positive, I want this to be a red cable, so it's clearly identified. So that's one of the first jobs that I'm going to be doing right now. Right, so I think I have sorted out all my cables. Again, this is the negative terminal going to the BMS, and this is the fuse, which is now on the permanent live feed, which will go to the heater. Right, I can now put the metal plate back in, and I can peel this off now. So this is just where it gets a bit tricky, and you've got to make sure the cables stay in the right place before you slide the battery in. Nice. As you can see, that cable's got a bit of rim still, and so is this one. I basically made grooves right into the corners, so this is where they sit and don't interfere with the battery sitting flush. So one of the most stressful things about building this box for this batteries was putting these 3 screws right in the middle, hoping that it lined up with the partition between the batteries. And if you want to go and watch the video of me building this for the first time, I'll leave a little card up in the corner for you now. So as I said, this box is nice and tight around these batteries, which requires a bit of brute force. Pretty good to me. Soon find out if I hit one. Ta-da. Now, like I said, I actually had a little bit of a problem with one of these BMSs, which was completely my fault. We had a leak, and it wasn't dripping on the batteries, it was dripping on something else, and then that was splashing, and it landed on one of these BMSs, and I've forgotten which one it was. I've got a feeling it was this one. So I'm just going to take this top plate off now and just have another little look and make sure nothing's wrong with it. So yeah, it was in this area where we had a bit of water damage, and this is actually where the cables go to the individual cells. This is where it plugs into, and yeah, it wasn't giving me basically a reading. This is a little Bluetooth module, which obviously I can connect through my phone through an app, and yeah, I wasn't getting anything through there. But just looking at it now, I know that's really bright for you, but yeah, I did a bloody good job at cleaning that up. So because one of these BMSs are a bit iffy, like, don't get me wrong, it still works absolutely perfect, but because there is maybe a fault with it, I am going to put that one to my old battery rather than the new batteries that we have. So we've got a healthy BMS with brand new healthy batteries, and we've got a slightly faulty BMS with my 2-year-old batteries. So that's how I'm going to wire this up. And now I'm going to basically cut all my new lengths of cable that I want for connecting the batteries to the BMS. So rather than showing you a box full of messy cables, I thought I'd make you some diagrams. So on the right hand side you will see that this battery is wired up in series, and it's showing you how the balancing cables are wired up to each individual cell. And on the left hand side is a diagram showing how the BMS is wired up to the battery. So after a bit of a fight, the battery is now back together. Bluetooth modules are all back in. Got to find a tiny little nut to attach the heater. And I'm now just trying to tidy up a few of these cables, and I've actually just run a new earth because this happened. This was the earth for the DC to DC charger, and what I think has happened is where we had a bit of a leak, some water must have got onto this and absolutely fried it, because yeah, that ain't good. But I have redone it now, so if any water does come in, the earth point is not right at the bottom. I've run a whole new line all the way around. So yeah, I'm just gonna tidy a few more of these up and then put the battery back in and put the inverter back in. Okay, so it's actually the next day. The battery and the inverter are back where they should be, and everything is working absolutely perfect. Obviously I still need to test the heater out. We're not at those cold temperatures yet. It has got a bit warmer up in Scotland, but once it does get a bit colder, I will obviously keep an eye on it, and I'll keep you posted if anything happens. So how much did my lithium-ion battery cost me? So that's a bit tricky because obviously part of my battery is over 2 years old, and I paid a lot less money back then. So a 200 amp hour battery pack about 2-3 years ago now, it cost me £477 to build, and you could not get a lithium-ion battery for under £1,000 at that point. So I was saving a lot of money, and that's why it was worth it for me. With the battery pack in total now, so 400 amp hour, it would have cost me about £930 to build. And to give you a comparison, for a Fogstar 460 amp hour battery, you're paying £1,199. So you're only saving about 200 quid. So the price of lithium-ion batteries have come down massively, and because of that, cells are coming down in price as well. So when you shop around, obviously I got my cells from Alibaba Express. Go on that website, shop around, and I'm sure you'll find some great deal on some cells. Obviously I bought 2 BMSs as well. You wouldn't necessarily have to. You could just buy one BMS, which is a 8 series one, so you can connect to 8 cells and just use one BMS. So you would save a bit of money there as well. So that brings us to the next question of, is it even worth building your own lithium-ion batteries now? So you can still save yourself a little bit of money by building it yourself. Again, like if you enjoy building stuff like this, if you like learning, then it is really fun. You do learn a lot. So in that respect, yes, I'd say it is still worth it. Also, with the cells, you can obviously make it fit wherever you want to put your battery. So obviously if you buy a standard battery, it's a standard size, it will go in a certain area, but you might have a bigger space, and so you might think, well, I can't get 2 batteries in there, but I can get 8 cells and do it that way. So if you want to customize your area of where you want to put a battery, then as well it is well worth it. So as I mentioned before, you don't need to put insulation or a heater in lithium-ion batteries if it's in the home area of your van. Just a few little tips. Obviously, if you've got a heater, keep it close to a heater, not right next to it, but close to it. And also bring it off the ground, so maybe just put some little bits of batting underneath it or some little feet on your batteries, just so the cold doesn't transfer through your floor into your batteries. So thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I will leave some links in the description of where I bought my batteries and BMSs from, and maybe a few other videos that I found very informative and helped me build my battery. I'm going to be doing a few other little videos of getting the van winter ready, so stick around for that, and I'll see you next time. As you can see, I've got tape around all.
Chew my help.
No, it's Heimdall drinking. Oh no, it's not Heimdall, it's Odin. He will drink the whole bowl. You good, mate?